Hello, this lecture is starting off the section on the rise of Europe. We have basically two things we're going to do in this lecture. One is to show you what I mean by Europe's rise, looking at some manufacturing data, and then also to give you some background information that we would have talked about in History 121, which is World Civilizations to 1600. So if you look at the year 1800 and you divide up manufacturing, like all the manufactured goods that are made in proportion among different countries of the world, you can see China is number one. China is the biggest manufacturer. It's got something like 40% of all goods are manufactured in China. That's pretty darn impressive. You have Europe, though, is also doing pretty well. Less than China, certainly, but still not bad. And India's here. India's doing amazing as well, right? India's almost as much as Europe, less than China. And if you add China and India together, you can see that these two nations, these two empires in a sense, are manufacturing most of the goods in the world. Now, remember, part of India is under British rule at the time, but in any case, Asia is dominant in terms of manufacturing. The rest of the world is just this little yellow bit here. Europe's not bad. China's doing amazing. India's got a significant portion. Now let's look at the year 1900. This is Europe, right? It has the vast majority. India has shrunk so much. And China's still there, but it's not that much compared to what it had been, right? Now, one thing I want to emphasize is that this is not in terms of, this is proportion, this isn't absolute number. So China still and India are still producing a lot of goods. It's just that Europe, now that the Industrial Revolution is very much underway and in many places is kind of complete, you've got this huge amount of manufacturing. So it's kind of curious, right? You know, I talk about how in the year 1600, when this course begins, Europe is really far behind. East Asian Islamic civilizations are the most powerful, wealthiest civilizations. But by 1800, Europe is really starting to catch up and, in a sense, in a position to pull ahead. And by the year 1900, it's really far ahead. And one thing I want to stress, remember the rest, you know, in this time period, 1800, there's not that many among the remaining, the rest of the world. Here there's a lot. Most of that growth is from the United States. So in a sense, Western civilization, right? If you think of the United States and Europe as constituting Western civilization, I know it's more complex than that. Western civilization is really dominating. And why does that happen? And in this class, I argue it's because of these four revolutions, right? A political, an economic, a scientific, and industrial. Now, this is really data that has to do with the Industrial Revolution. We have to go for those other revolutions first. But this is just to show you graphically how you had this massive change. So now to give you some background and to talk a little bit about why this happens. Why is it that Europe, which is behind, is going to embark on those revolutions that put it ahead? And a lot has to do with the India Ocean trade and Europe's geographic exclusion from it. So one thing we want to stress, remember Zheng He's voyages, he was moving around in this area. And the thing was, he knew where he was going. People were already trading in these areas. You know, there's a whole bunch of trade going on here. But look, Asia's in it. The Middle East is in it, right? East Asian civilizations, Indian civilization, Islamic civilization, African civilizations, they're all in on this. Europe's left out, right? It's very difficult for Europe to take advantage of this Indian Ocean trade. Similarly, you have the Silk Road, which again ties these countries together nicely, but Europe is kind of left out. And one thing I want to stress, even though Europe can get access to the spices and to the silk that's traded on this road, they have to get it through the Ottomans, basically. They have to get it through Islamic civilization. And of course, the price, when it's brought overland and is going through all these middlemen, is going to be much higher than if the Europeans could directly engage in this trade. So Europeans know that all this great stuff is being traded here, but they're largely excluded from it. And when they are able to buy those things, they have to pay higher prices to a rival civilization, right? You have Western European Christian civilization, a rival to Islamic civilization, but to get spices and silks, they have to pay money to this rival civilization. So, in a sense, Europeans, they're kind of left out. They're kind of excluded. They don't want to be. And that's going to be a big part of what leads to them engaging those revolutions I was talking about. So now to give you a little bit of background. So you can think about Europeans as militarily powerful have-nots with a mission. What do I mean by that? They were militarily powerful, right? They had a lot of power. They were always fighting with each other. And when you are having lots of war, you get really good at fighting. You develop better weapons, you develop better technology. Remember, one reason East Asia falls behind is they had peace, so they stopped investing a lot of money developing new weapons of war and things like that. So you got these people who are really powerful, and they have a mission, right? What's their mission? Or I'm sorry, before that, they're have-nots, right? They know that this trade is going on. They know there's all this money is going on, but they're excluded. They're have-nots. They want to be haves. They want to get some of that wealth. Right now they don't have it, though. And so they're militarily powerful. They want to get some wealth that they know exists, that they don't have access to just yet, and they have a mission. What do I mean by that? Well, their mission, in a sense, is to spread Christianity. Right? Europe in the 15th, 16th centuries is still very much a consciously Christian civilization. Now, with the Protestant Reformation, you're going to have different kinds of Christianity, of course, and even before that, you had Orthodox and Catholics. But the key thing is, there's this desire to spread Christianity and to obtain wealth. And those two things go together, sometimes rather uncomfortably, right? But there's this idea we want wealth, we want to spread Christianity. The story goes that when Vasco da Gama first went around Africa and got to India, he was asked by the people in India, what do you want? Why are you here? And he said, I am here for Christians and spices. In other words, I'm here to spread Christianity and to make money. So these Europeans are military powerful. They want to go out there so they can get access to wealth and so they can spread their religion. And so they're going to go out and try to explore and figure out ways to get part of this wonderful Indian Ocean trade, to get access to those silks and spices directly without having to go through Islamic civilization. So that's going to lead them to start exploring, right? They're going to start exploring to get to the source of Muslim-dominated trade. So, for example, why don't we just start going around Africa and then get up to India? That's something we could do. We could sail west and see what happens then, right? If you're in India and people are coming to you to get spices and if you're in China and people are coming to you to get silk, you're not going to worry about going out and exploring. But if you are a have-not with a mission, you're going to explore. And in particular, you want to get to the source of that Muslim-dominated trade. And because Europeans have advanced technology, they're fighting all the time, so they get really good at making ships and they get really good at making cannon. And they make powerful cannon that they can mount on that ship. So basically, Europeans can kind of go anywhere. And when they get somewhere, you have to take them seriously because they have advanced military technology, right? If you look at this image, you can see all these things kind of mixed together, right? You've got the ships, you've got the guns, you've got the swords and the armor, you've got Christianity, and you've got this desire for trade. I say Europeans, they're hungry, they want to get out there, they want to get the wealth, and they can go out and get it, and you got to take them seriously because they have the cannon. And of course, these discoveries that they're going to eventually make, and I should say discoveries because the people living there already knew existed, is going to lead to more competition war with each other, right? Europeans will go out and explore, they'll find and establish colonies, and then they'll fight with each other over control of those colonies, so they get even better at fighting. So it's kind of this curious thing. In a sense, it's because Europeans were so far behind, but because they had this desire to get involved in this trade and the military technology to make people take them seriously, they're going to go out and start on a trajectory that's going to lead them to eventually dominate the world.